The woman from the bank said my father's name first, the way they do when they are about to tell you something careful. And then she said, "We need to speak with you about the safe deposit box associated with his account, and about the contents you have been paying to maintain." And I said, "Ma'am, I think you have the wrong man. My brother got the house. I got a toolbox. There is no box at any bank." There was a pause, and she said, "Mr. Halloran, the box is in your name. It has been for 11 years. Your father set it up that way. I am going to tell you what was in that bank, why my father gave the house to my brother and gave me a beat-up metal toolbox instead, and what I found a year after we put him in the ground that rearranged everything I thought I knew about being the son who got less. Because for a whole year, I believed my father had told me, in the plainest way a man can, that I came second. I was wrong about that. And being wrong about it is the best thing that ever happened to me, and it nearly came too late. My name is Ray. I am 54 years old. I have worked with my hands my entire life, engines mostly, than anything that needed fixing. And I have never once in 54 years been the son anyone in my family described as the smart one with money. That was always Gary, my older brother. Gary wore a tie to work, and I wore my name stitched on my shirt. And in our family, that was the whole story of US, told 1,000 times without anyone ever saying it out loud. My father was named Bill. Everyone called him Bill, even us, half the time, because he was not a soft man, and Dad felt like a word for a different kind of father. He fixed things for a living, and then he fixed things for free for half the neighborhood. And he said maybe 200 words on a good day. He passed a year and a half ago now. His heart, in his sleep, which everyone keeps telling me is a mercy, and I suppose it is, though I would have liked one more conversation. Even a short one, even 200 words. The thing you have to understand about my father and me is that we did not talk. We worked. From the time I was 6 years old, I was out in that garage with him, handing him tools, and later using them. And that was where he kept me close. Gary was never out there. Gary was inside doing his homework and being praised for it, building himself into the man who would wear the tie. And I was in the garage with grease under my fingernails, being, I thought, tolerated. It took me 54 years and a phone call from a bank to understand which one of us my father was actually talking to all those years, and that he was saying the most important things in the only language he had. I will give you one memory, because it is the one I keep. When I was about 12, I spent a whole Saturday helping him rebuild a carburetor on a neighbor's car. And at the end of it, when the engine turned over clean, my father did not say good job, because he did not say things like that. What he did was hand me the rag to wipe my own hands first, before he wiped his. That was all. He let me clean up first. And I did not understand until I was a grown man that in my father's entire vocabulary, handing you the rag first was as close to "I am proud of you" as the words ever got. He had a whole language, and none of it used words. And I was the only one in the family who grew up fluent in it. And I spent a year after his passing thinking that language had told me I came second. I had translated my own father wrong, after a lifetime of being the only one who could read him at all. Let me take you to the day of the will, because that is where the wound started. We were in a lawyer's office that smelled like carpet cleaner, Gary and his wife Karen on one side, me and my wife Linda on the other, and the lawyer read it out in that flat voice they use. The house on Cooper Street, the house we both grew up in, the house my father paid off over 30 years, went to Gary. In full. And to me, the lawyer read, "My father left," and I am quoting the document, "my toolbox and the entire contents of my garage." That was the phrase. The contents of my garage. A man's whole estate split into a house for one son and a garage full of wrenches for the other. I want to tell you, I kept my face still. I did not. I felt it go hot, and I felt Linda's hand find my knee under the table. And across the room I saw Karen, Gary's wife, do a very small thing with her mouth that was not quite a smile, but was related to one. Gary at least had the decency to look like he wanted the floor to open. He said, "Ray, listen, we can talk about this." And I said, "There's nothing to talk about, it's what he wanted." And I stood up, because if I sat there one more minute I was going to say something I could not take back. The lawyer said one more thing before I got to the door. He said, "There is a note. Your father left a note attached to your portion." And he handed me an index card, my father's blocky handwriting on it. 6 words. Ray will know what to do. I stood in that hallway holding a card that said Ray will know what to do, and I did not know what to do at all, and the not knowing felt like one more way of being told I had failed a test nobody had warned me about. Here is the part one need you to sit with, because it is the engine of the whole next year. I took that toolbox home and I put it in the corner of my own garage, and for a long time I could not even look at it. Because to me it was not a toolbox. It was my father's last word on the subject of his 2 sons, and the word was Gary. Gary got the house you can raise a family in. You got the box of tools you already know how to use. I read it as him saying, I gave the future to your brother, and I gave you the past. I let it sit in that corner for 4 months before I could make myself open it. And when I finally did, I was not looking for anything. I was just looking for a reason to stop being angry at a man I could not yell at because he was gone. Those 4 months were not good months. I want to be honest about that, because the man I am at the end of this story does not make sense if you do not see the man I was in the middle of it. I started finding reasons not to drive past Cooper Street. I let Gary's calls go to voicemail twice, 3 times, because every time his name came up on my phone, I saw the lawyer's office and Karen's almost smile. Linda would catch me standing in the garage just looking at that box in the corner like it owed me money, and she stopped asking what I was doing out there. I was 54 years old, and I was sulking like a boy who got the smaller half of something. And the worst part was I knew it, and knowing it did not help me stop. Grief and pride braided together make a rope that can hold a grown man down for a long time. It held me for 4 months. It would have held me longer if I had not finally, on a slow Sunday, gotten down on the floor out of pure restlessness and lifted that top tray. I lifted out the top tray. The usual things, the sockets, the good ratchet he never let me borrow when I was young. And underneath, where there should have been more tools, there was a flat wooden divider my father had cut and fitted himself. You could tell by the work. And under that divider was a layer that did not belong in any mechanic's box. There were keys, 3 of them, on a wire ring, and they were not garage keys. I knew every key in that garage. These were small and flat, the kind that open a lock you do not see every day. And there was a paper, folded into a hard little square, soft and gray at the creases from age. And when I opened it, it was a receipt from a bank for the rental of a safe deposit box, dated 11 years ago. I sat down on the cold floor of my garage holding that receipt, and the first feeling was not excitement. It was confusion. And underneath the confusion, the smallest, most unwelcome flicker of something I did not want to feel, because I had spent 4 months building a wall out of being the son who got less, and that flicker was the first crack in it. I told myself it was nothing. An old receipt. A man rents a box, he forgets it, it expires. I put it on my workbench and I did not call any bank, because I was not ready to find out that the box was empty and be made a fool of by my own hope. And then, before I could decide anything, Gary called about the house. He wanted to sell it. He said it gently, the way you tell someone news you know will land hard. And he said the market was good and the house was too much for him, and it just made sense. And he asked me, and I want you to hear how this lands on a man in my position, he asked me if I would come help him clear it out. Because, he said, you are good with that kind of thing. Meaning the lifting and the hauling and the sorting of a lifetime into keep and toss and sell. He got the house, and now he needed the brother who got the toolbox to come empty it with his hands. For free. I said yes. I said yes immediately, and Linda looked at me like I had lost my mind. And the reason I said yes was not generosity. It was that saying yes meant I got to walk through the rooms of my childhood one more time before a stranger painted over them. I would have paid for that. Gary thought he was asking me for a favor. He was handing me something I wanted more than he knew. We spent a Saturday in that house, the 2 of us, mostly not talking, which is the only way the men in my family know how to be in a room together. And late in the afternoon, I went out to the garage, the original garage, the one where my whole boyhood happened, to start on my father's workbench. And I remembered something. When I was maybe 10, my father had shown me a place in that garage, behind a loose section of paneling near the floor, where the previous owner had built a little hidden space. My father used it for nothing important, A few cash bills for emergencies, that was all. He had said, "This is between you and me," and never mentioned it again, and I had not thought about it in 40 years. Gary did not know about it. My father showed it to me and not to him. And at 10 years old, I had not understood that this meant anything at all. I pried the panel loose, half expecting nothing, and there was a tin box back there, the kind that holds cookies at Christmas, rusted at the seams. And inside it were photographs. They were old, the colors gone soft and orange the way they do. And they were of my father, younger than I had ever seen him, standing in front of a low cinder block building with a sign I could not read in the photo. And he had his arm around another young man. And they were both grinning the way you grin when you are 25 and you think you are about to build something. I had never seen my father grin like that. Not once in my life. And there were more keys in that tin and a slip of paper with an address on it. In his handwriting, an address across town that meant nothing to me. I stood in that garage holding a photograph of a happy young stranger who happened to be my father. And the wall I had built was not just cracked anymore. Because here was proof of a whole life my father had before he became the silent man in the garage. A life with grinning and an arm around a friend, and a building he stood in front of like he owned a piece of it. And I had a receipt for a bank box in my name, and 3 keys, and now more keys, and an address, and 6 words that said Ray will know what to do, and I did not know anything. Except that the man I had spent 4 months being angry at was turning out to be a man I had never actually met. I did not tell Gary. I want to be honest that I noticed myself not telling him, and I was not proud of it, but I also was not ready to share a mystery I did not understand with the brother who already got the house. I took the tin home. If you have ever found out that someone you thought you had all figured out had a whole other story underneath, you already understand where I was standing that night. If that is you, take a second to subscribe, because the rest of what my father hid is the kind of thing I think you will want to be here for. And if there was a person in your life who said the important things without ever using words, tell me about them down in the comments. I read every one. The next morning, I went to see Sal. Sal is the closest thing my father had to a best friend, an old mechanic himself, 81 now, hands like roots. He had been at the funeral, had gripped my shoulder, and said your dad was the best of us, and then could not say anything else. I brought him the photograph, and I put it on his kitchen table, and Sal looked at it for a long time without picking it up. Then he said, "I wondered if you'd come." I asked him what he meant, and Sal got up, slow, and poured us coffee neither of us wanted, the way old men do when they need their hands busy for what they are about to say. And he told me that my father, before he was my father, before any of us, had a few years where he and that man in the photograph, a fellow named Russo, had started something. A little shop that made parts, specialty parts, the kind of precise metal work my father could do in his sleep. Russo had the head for the business, and my father had the hands. They started it with nothing, in that cinder block building, and my father built half of it with his own 2 hands, the benches, the jigs, the first machines. And then, Sal said, "Your mother got pregnant with Gary, and your dad got scared. A startup is no place for a man with a baby coming and no cushion." So he sold most of his part back to Russo for enough to put a down payment on the house on Cooper Street. And he took a steady job, and he became the man you knew. He gave up the grinning, Sal said, and he tapped the photograph for the steady. For you boys. He never said one word of regret about it in 40 years, and I knew him better than anyone. And I am telling you, he never once complained. Sal turned the photograph over then, and on the back, in pencil so faded I had to tilt it to the window, was my father's writing. It said, the year we built it, and a date, and under that, 2 words, best days. I had to put the coffee down, because my whole life my father had acted like the best days were a thing other men talked about, and he had no use for. And here on the back of a photograph he had admitted, to no one, in pencil, that the best days of his life happened in a cinder block building before I was ever born, and that he walked away from them on purpose, for a down payment and a steady job and 2 sons, one of whom spent a year being angry that he only got the toolbox. He could have kept the shop and been a happier man, Sal said, reading my face. But he would have been a happier man with no house and no boys raised right. And he did the math on that the way he did the math on everything. And he never once told me he chose wrong. He just kept that one little piece of it, all these years, and he pointed it at you. Sal slid the photo back to me. He used to say, Russo built the business, but I built the benches it sits on. Those benches are still in that building, Ray. 40 years later. Your father's hands are still holding that place up. I said, but he kept some of it. The part he didn't sell. Sal looked at me a long moment, and he said, your father told me something maybe 10 years back. He said, one day Ray is going to come around asking about that building. Not Gary, Ray. And when he does, you give him this. And Sal got up again and went to a drawer and took out an envelope, soft at the edges from sitting in a drawer for 10 years waiting for me to be standing in this kitchen. He said, you give him this and you tell him I said to read it before he does anything. Don't let him do anything till he reads it all. Those were your father's words. He made me say them back to him. I took the envelope out to my truck before I opened it, because some things you cannot open in front of another person. Inside was a letter, and it was longer than 200 words, which told me my father had sat down and worked at it. The way he worked at everything, slow and careful, and getting it right. He wrote, Ray, if you were reading this you finally opened the box and got curious, which is exactly why it is you reading it, and not your brother. Your brother needs things he can hold. He always has. He needs a house and a yard and a thing he can point to, and there is no shame in that. It is just how he is built, and a father gives each son what he is built to need. You were never like that. You never needed to point at anything. You just needed to know how a thing worked, all the way down, and you are the only person alive who would take that toolbox apart far enough to find the bottom. He wrote, I kept a small share of the shop. Russo built it into something steady over the years, nothing flashy, parts for machines, the kind of business that just keeps going. That share is yours. It has been sitting in a box at the bank with your name on it, paid up, waiting. Because if I had left it to you in the will, your brother would have had a claim on it, and it would have turned into lawyers, and the two of you would have ended up hating each other over my name. I have seen that happen to other families, and I would rather be in the ground than cause it. So I did it this way, the quiet way, the way only you would find. And then the last line, and I have read it 100 times since. He wrote, I did not give your brother more than I gave you, son. I gave him the thing he could not live without, and I gave you the thing only you were strong enough to be trusted with. Read everything before you sign anything. You always were the one who read the whole way to the bottom. I sat in my truck in Sal's driveway, and I did something I had not done at the funeral, had not done in the lawyer's office, had not done once in the whole bitter year. I put my head down on my own steering wheel, and I let it go. For a man who spent 40 years unable to tell me he was proud of me, and who then spent 10 years building a way to tell me after he was gone, in a language of keys and boxes and a friend holding an envelope, because saying it with his mouth was the one repair my father never learned how to make. I did not go to the bank for 2 days. I need you to understand why, because it is the most important decision in this whole story, and it has nothing to do with money. For 2 days I sat with the fact that my father had said, do not tell Gary, do it the quiet way. And I realized I was holding the same shape of thing my brother held. He had a house he could sell and not tell me how much for. I had a share at a bank I could claim and never mention. I could be square with him in secret, him with his house, me with my share, both of us quietly even, and we could go on being two men who do not talk in the same room for the rest of our lives. And Linda, who had watched me be angry for a year, said the thing that turned me. She said, your father told you to read it before you do anything. He didn't tell you to hide it forever. He told you to look first, so you would understand it before your brother could turn it into a fight. Reading first isn't the same as keeping a secret. The reading's done now, Ray. You understand it. The question is what kind of man you were once you do. So I went to the bank, and I will tell you what was in that box, because it was not what a year of bitterness had taught me to expect. The woman, Ms. Patel, brought me to a little room and left me with it. And inside was not cash. There was no pile of money, no gold, none of the things you picture. There were documents. A certificate of ownership, my name typed on it, for a share in Russo Manufacturing, the cinder block dream from the photograph, all grown up. There were statements going back years that my father had been quietly receiving and saving, every one of them, in order, the way he kept everything. And there was a single sheet on top, in his hand, that just gave me the name and number of the lawyer, not the carpet cleaner one, a different one, who handled this and only this, and a line that said, "He is paid. He is waiting for you. He will explain what it is worth." It was worth enough. I am not going to put a number on it for you, because the number is not the point, and the moment I say a number you will stop hearing the story and start doing math. It was worth enough to change my life. Not lottery money, not a yacht. The kind of enough that means a man who worked with his hands for 54 years does not have to worry the way he has always worried. The kind of enough my father built, one steady year at a time, with the part of himself he gave up grinning for. I sat in that little room and I read every statement, in order, the way he kept them, and I understood what I was looking at. It was 40 years of a man checking on a thing he never touched. He never cashed a dime of it. He could have. There were lean years I remember from my childhood, a winter the heat got turned down to save money, a Christmas that was thinner than the others, and the whole time this was sitting in a bank with his name on it, and he never reached for it. Not once. Because it was not his to spend. He had already decided, before I could walk, whose it was. He went cold one winter rather than touch the thing he was saving for the son who would not be born for 2 more years. I do the math on that some nights, and I cannot get to the bottom of it. And here is the thing that made me sit down in that little bank room. Ms. Patel explained, gently, that the reason they had called me a year after the funeral, the reason for the strange timing, was that my father had structured it with a notification clause, a date by which the bank was required to make sure the named holder knew what he had. He had even planned for the possibility that I would be too stubborn or too hurt to come find it on my own. He had built a backstop, a year out, in case his angry younger son sat in a garage and refused to open a toolbox. He had thought of that. He had thought of me being exactly as bitter as I had been, and he had made sure the truth would reach me anyway, even if I fought it. My father outthought my grief from inside his own grave. I do not know how else to say it. I could have stopped there. I had the truth. I had the share. I had my father's voice back in my hands after a year of silence. The clean thing, the even thing, would have been to say nothing to Gary, to let him have his house and his sale, and to quietly have my own. We would have been balanced. Nobody would have been wronged. I drove to Gary's house instead. I want to be clear about why, because it would be easy to make myself sound noble, and that is not what this was. I did not go to Gary to be generous. I went because my father spent the last 10 years of his life terrified that his 2 sons would end up hating each other over his estate, and had bent his whole quiet mind toward preventing it. And I was not going to honor that by becoming a man with a secret in a bank box, the mirror image of a brother with a secret in a house. I went because I did not want to be even with Gary in silence. I wanted to be honest with him out loud, even if it cost me. I put the letter on his kitchen table, my father's letter, and I let him read it. And I watched my brother, 58 years old, read our father's handwriting saying your brother needs things he can hold, and I watched his face do something I had never seen it do. He put it down, and he was quiet for a long time. And then he said, in a voice I did not recognize, "You want to know the truth?" And I said yes. And Gary told me the truth, the one he had been carrying behind the tie the whole time. He was drowning. He had been drowning for 3 years. Bad investments, a business that went sideways, debt stacked on debt, the kind a proud man hides from everyone including his wife until he cannot anymore. The house on Cooper Street was already borrowed against. The sale he was rushing was not greed. It was a man trying to get his head above water before he went all the way under, and too ashamed to say so to the little brother who worked with his hands and never pretended to be more than he was. He said, "I thought, the whole year, I thought he gave you that toolbox because he loved you more. Because you were the one out there with him. I thought he gave me the house out of, I don't know, obligation. The oldest son gets the house. I never told you I was selling it because I needed to, not because I wanted to. I let you think I was just cashing in." He looked at me. He gave me the house because he knew I was going under. And a house is the thing a drowning man can sell. He gave you the share because he knew you would never sell it. You would tend it. the way you tend everything. He didn't love one of us more. He just knew exactly which one of us was weak in which place. We sat in that kitchen, two men in our 50s, and for the first time in our entire lives we told each other the truth about money and fear and who our father had actually been, and it was the longest either of us had ever heard the other one talk. I'm not going to lie to you and say we hugged and the band played. We did not. We are still the men our father made us, and you do not undo 50 years in one kitchen. There is a stiffness between Gary and me that may never fully leave, because he let me believe a lie for a year to protect his pride, and I spent that year angry at a ghost instead of picking up a phone, and we both know those things about each other now and cannot unknow them. But I helped him. Not with the share, my father's share I kept, because my father built it for me with the part of himself he sacrificed, and I was not going to liquidate that to bail out a bad investment. But I had enough, with what that share was worth, that I could help my brother in a way that was mine to give, on my terms, the way a man helps his brother and not the way a man pays off a debt. I told him it was not a loan and it was not charity. It was just what our father would have wanted done with some of it, and I would not hear another word about it. For once in our lives, I was the brother in the position to say that, and I said it, and Gary cried at his own kitchen table, which I had also never seen, and I let him, the way I wish someone had let our father, just once. Gary kept the house, in the end, pulled himself back from the edge and kept it. His daughter Emily, my niece, lives in it now with her own kids, and the height marks of 2 generations are still on the kitchen doorframe, and I go over there, and it is strange, and it is fine, and it is more than I had a year ago. I still have the toolbox. It sits on the bench in my garage where I can see it. I added the 3 small keys back into the bottom, under the divider my father cut, because that is where they live, and I put the bank box key in there with them. My grandson is 6 now, which is the age I was when my father first put a wrench in my hand. And last week he was out in the garage with me, and he asked me what was in the old metal box, and I lifted out the top tray, and I showed him the good ratchet, the one Bill never let me borrow, and I put it in his small hand, and I did not tell him yet about the rest, about the bottom of the box. He will find the bottom himself someday. He is the kind who will look. When he was done with the ratchet, I had him hand it back, and then I handed him the rag to wipe his hands first, before I wiped mine. He does not know what that means yet. He will. I am going to spend whatever years I have left teaching that boy the language my father taught me, the one with no words in it. And I am going to make sure that somewhere along the way I also just say it to him, out loud, plainly, the way my father never could. I am proud of you. Both things, the rag and the words. I am going to give him both, because I learned the hard way that a man can spend his whole life saying I love you in a language only one person can read, and that person can still get it wrong for a year in the dark. My father gave my brother the house because Gary needed a thing he could hold. He gave me a battered toolbox with a false bottom and 3 keys and a friend holding a letter and a year of being wrong, because I was the one who would take it all the way apart to find what he had hidden at the bottom, which was not a share in a company, not really. It was the last thing he had to give me, the thing he could never once say across a workbench in 40 years. He just had to build it out of metal and patience and a quiet bank box, and trust that the son who got less would understand it was the most a silent man had ever managed to say. I understood it. It took me a year and a phone call and a friend's kitchen and my wife telling me what kind of man to be. But I got there. I read it all the way to the bottom, the way he knew I would. If this story reached something in you, about a father, a brother, or the things our families never quite managed to say out loud, do me one small favor. Subscribe and stay a while, because I have more of these, and they are all about the quiet things people leave behind. And before you go, tell me in the comments, who in your life gave you the toolbox when you thought you wanted the house? I would like to read about them. Sometimes the smaller share turns out to be the one that was holding everything up the whole time.